Imejaliwa moyo upendo, ukipenda napendaga vibaya, ile skendo zimefanya sijasetwa.
All right, Dixon. Hi.
Yes. Hi to you.
How are you?
I'm great.
You are great, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, good to see you. So I want to join. So today we are going to discuss about food security and the role of the youth to defeat COVID-19. Yeah, so maybe you can introduce yourself. So today is not because of course food and health goes they're intertwined.
Yeah.
Yeah, so today we want to focus about food security and what the youth can do. Yeah, so I want anyone who wants to join the conversation to join us. The link is on the comment box. You just join in. So Dixon, introduce yourself and then we pick it up.
Okay, my name is Dixon Arwasa. I'm an ICU nurse by profession, and I work in the government, in one of the hospitals of the government in Nakuru County.
Great. Now, Dixon, you know, this COVID-19 has shown our weak point, especially when it comes to food. Maybe I could ask you, where is the missing mark, especially in terms of the youth and investing in food or agriculture?
Oh, okay. Indeed, at the moment, like those Kenyans who've lost their work, especially those who've been doing the small jobs around, at the moment they're in their houses, and the main challenge is they are not able to get food. So it is a factor that is going to really affect us if the coronavirus continues. Now, you remember yesterday when food was being distributed in Kibra, there was chaos and some people were injured. So that shows you that food is really a very important factor as we continue with this fight against the coronavirus. So the truth is, the youth have the potential of producing more food in this country, but unfortunately, the government has not invested so much in agriculture, because if the government could have engaged the youth are the most productive age. They are in their productive age, and if the government utilizes that so that it can empower the youths, and it sensitizes everyone about the importance of embarking in agriculture, because most of the parts of our country are productive. So if the government can engage the youth very well, equipping them with farm inputs, then I think we can improve the issue of food in this country. But at the moment, as we struggle with COVID-19, I think the government is taking measures. Like now, it wants to collect some donations from those ones who are willing, so that the food can be supplied to those who don't have. So, but that is a short-term measure. But for a long-term measure, I think the government needs to really think about engaging the farmers, who are mostly youths, in agricultural activities. And this notion of youths going to school, knowing that after school they get employed, is also affecting us. If you can look at some countries which have really engaged in agriculture, there are people who have employed themselves in agriculture. So I think, again, as a long-term measure, the government needs to emphasize that even from school, the students should see the importance of doing agriculture, the techniques of doing agriculture, and maybe we can walk away from this issue of having problems with food in our country.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because we have almost 70% of our population, which is the youth, which is us. Now, why are the youth not attracted, especially maybe to invest in agriculture? And we can see maybe our parents, the old generation, they are into agriculture a lot, and actually they support this youth. Why are youths into white collar jobs? Is it when they maybe emphasize that agriculture is the backbone and we need now to go back?
I think this all depends on the government policies. If we don't emphasize on that, like now, for example, the system of education, which again is controlled by policies. If we can't concentrate on the policies that will change our mindset about everything that we are doing about our education system, then I think we can't easily get people convinced that agriculture can also be an occupation. It is benefits. So the most important thing is putting in these issues of agriculture in our policies, in our curriculum, in school, so that even if the students are still in school, they know that agriculture is also very important. But now I think the new system is trying to change the mindset of issues of employment in our country. But we need to do more because the government needs to emphasize that these other jobs, the mechanics, the farmers, that is also another way of occupation. But now you realize that, like the 844, we were studying seriously to become doctors, to become lawyers, which is a challenge. So I think the system needs to change, the policies needs to change in order to change the whole scenario of people perceiving that even agriculture is not an occupation that someone can depend on.
Okay. Good. So my other issue is in terms of loans, maybe the financial institutions. What do you think the kind of incentive that can be given to young people so that maybe they can actually invest to agriculture?
Okay, most of the time you find that a person can be having a very big piece of land, but then they are not able to get farm inputs, and they're just staying there. So the most important thing is not even farm inputs. The first thing is about changing the attitude of the people in the country. Attitude is the most important thing, because even if you give me the inputs, the fertilizer, the seeds, then that means if my attitude is still not very good against agriculture, I'm not going to utilize those inputs very well. So the first thing, as I said earlier, is the government needs to change the policies about how people perceive issues of agriculture. That is the very important thing. Another thing is we need to teach our people that agriculture, like I like the Moi era, where whereby you found that Moi really used to emphasize issues dealing with agriculture. For example, that is why you find the Nyayo T zones, agricultural institutions, Moi really emphasized about issues of agriculture. So it all depends about the government, how it is trying to change the minds of Kenyans concerning agriculture. So that is the very important thing. Then after people have known the importance of agriculture, that it is going to that, then the government can assist us with the farm inputs, that is the fertilizer, seeds to plant. Then the agriculture officers will be on the ground guiding people on how to do agriculture. Then we can improve the whole thing.
Okay. So the other question will be like, of course, if people purchase some maybe foods from other countries like Uganda, there's always been a question about maybe eggs coming from Uganda, milk coming from Uganda, which is actually very cheap. So why can this be cheap in Uganda and not in Kenya? And actually, we can see we are actually like transporting those goods a very long distance to reach maybe Nairobi, Mombasa, but still those goods are way cheaper than what we produce in Kenya.
Okay, I'm not a specialist in issues of businesses, but what I think is the factor which is influencing the prices could be the production is very high. That could be one of the reasons, or the costs for production could be very low. So possibly these are the issues that are influencing the prices of those products like eggs, which are real flooded the country, the milk from Uganda. That means the costs of the whole thing of the whole issue of production is not very expensive. So these guys can sell the at a cheaper price even to other countries. So so that means that even in Kenya, if the government decides to assist the youths in providing them with the basic needs, that means I'm talking about capital, I'm talking about inputs. So that means this person is not going to strain so much in order to get the farm products, and that will definitely directly influence the prices in the market. So that is why you find like there is a company from Uganda which was bringing milk into the country, but eventually it was stopped because of competition, and the milk in Kenya was not being sold very well. So that means we have a potential in Kenya of doing things, especially in agriculture. I think it is the government which has not really worked on that, because if you look at like the counties, most of the counties have places where people can plant food crops, like for example, if you go to Nyanza, we have rice farms which are still which became very dormant, and in the past, like Ahero, we used to get a lot of rice from there. We have a potential of getting bananas from Kisii, avocados, but then you find that even the county governments don't really emphasize on these. So in all, in order to improve the production of food, I think the government needs to empower the farmers, that is in terms of low cost of production. If there is low cost of production, everyone else in the country can be able to buy food, and that means food will be sold at fair prices which everyone can afford.
Okay, maybe the other thing would be in terms of COVID-19. Do you think we have a capacity to feed ourselves or even our farmers to supply their products? to citizens, maybe in Nairobi, Mombasa, and other towns, will this be enough, or we still need to import?
Okay, the recent thing that happened, I think last week, is when the government said that it is going to import food for Kenyans, especially maize. And you had an outcry from the North Rift. The farmers still have the maize that they had harvested, which has not been bought, and the government wants to import. I think we have a problem with how the government operates, especially on issues dealing with agriculture, because that this means when there was this outcry, it means that the farmers have plenty of food in their stores, which the government can transport to those who don't have. Like they can buy, then transport to like Nairobi, where there is a partial lockdown. People are not able to move from there to go and buy food outside Nairobi. So that means if the government invests a lot in uplifting the farmers of this country, we have a potential of providing food. Even at the moment, as we are in the crisis of COVID-19, we still have plenty of food in the country. We've not lacked food, but the mechanisms of supplying this food to those who need it is something which is a bit tricky, and which the government needs to look at it critically, and then no one will lack food in the country.
Okay. So, Dixon, what can the youth do? Maybe those who are not even medic, what can youth do in this COVID-19 to defeat COVID-19? What can they do? Or what role can they play? What role can the youth play in this fight against COVID-19? Not necessarily someone who is a medic, but just youth who want to play his part and become patriotic in this fight.
Okay, you had the other day Raila Odinga and Mutai Kawe repeated the same statements, the two of them, about involving the youth in fighting the COVID-19. The truth is, the youth, during youth is when someone has a potential of doing several things. Like now, the two leaders I've mentioned were looking at it in the perspective that the youths are the ones who are able to access the internet, the social media, and actually, like Raila emphasized on the youth using the social media to enlighten Kenyans about prevention of the COVID-19. So that is a very critical issue, because you realize nowadays we use the internet so much, we communicate through the internet, we don't even write letters easily nowadays. It is very minimal. We do most of our communication through the social media. That is why you can find something has happened somewhere, and all of a sudden you find that it has reached even the president. So that means the social media is very powerful. The internet is really working wonders. And like the youth, most of them are enlightened, they are learned, and they access the internet, they are able to use the internet, unlike the aged people who are not able to use it. So that is one way the youth can use to spread preventive measures against the coronavirus. Another thing is like now, okay, right now we don't have any movements around, so I don't think the youth can move around telling people not to engage themselves in activities which can facilitate the spread of the coronavirus, but mainly because people are indoors at the moment, then the youths can utilize the social media, because the truth is the youths have several platforms for entertainment, for socializing. So they have a bigger space to help prevent the spread of the coronavirus.
Okay, good. So yeah, there's also a question, maybe COVID-19, what will happen? And we have seen maybe in these places like Nairobi, we have seen maybe platforms, online platforms where you can go and purchase groceries, you can purchase goods from home. Did the youth miss this technology development, and they did not maybe invest in agriculture and maybe using the platforms like social media like your food?
Come again, please. I have not gotten the question.
Yes, so I'm saying in this COVID-19, we now think about post COVID-19 and how maybe the youth can use technology to actually supply, like we are saying, maybe market issue, moving goods from one place to another place. And of course, right now, the market for online platforms are surging. Did the youth really miss that opportunity to invest? And post COVID-19, will we see more youth actually investing maybe in agriculture and looking for market?
Okay, it is true that the technology has really improved issues of marketing items, and at the moment, as we are in the crisis of COVID-19, I think the youths can utilize it in making sales of food, those ones who want to engage in such businesses, because right now everyone else is in their houses, but if they are in need of food and a youth has come up with a platform where he or she is advertising of food products, maybe they're supplying, someone can utilize the social media or the internet so that they advertise such products, and they can even be able to deliver the products to the door, to the houses of those ones who need them. Because when the government gave out a gazette on the to control the movements, like now the lockdown in Nairobi, anyone who is transporting food can be able to go anywhere. So I think if someone can utilize the technology, and at present you realize that several people have knowledge about the internet, they use the internet a lot. This is where people are getting news, this is where people are buying items. So I think this can be very helpful if someone decides to use technology, maybe to supply food to those who need it.
Okay. Good. And also there's a question about women and the role of women, of course, in food production. And evidence shows that if women are given the same opportunity with the same factor of production, they become more productive 20% more than men. Are we, like, from what you can see, and this is your personal opinion, is Kenya really investing enough in terms of agriculture and food production?
As I said earlier, the truth is the Kenyan government has not invested in agriculture so much. I think it is high time that the government maybe thinks of investing in agriculture. This is why we are finding issues of like now the outcry from the North Rift, with which is a basket of our country. The farmers still have a lot of maize in their stores, but there are no policies controlling the sale of the maize. So they are just there. Most of the time, you find that food is bought by through the middlemen at poor prices. And that is not usually encouraging, because if they get the food at poor prices, then that means this farmer who pays school fees for their kids, the same farmer wants to again plant for another season and do other activities. They are not able to do that, so which is a bit discouraging. So I think if the government decides to invest in agriculture, it will save the farmers a big deal, and it will encourage the farmers so that they can engage in farming activities and improve their farming activities.
Okay. Good. And also, Dixon, there's this question about maybe the health part, which is maybe having food which is healthy for the body. And I know maybe, but you can confirm this, that maybe SDA church really emphasizes a lot of eating healthy food, and especially in this COVID-19 crisis, we are now, of course, facts that those people with good immunity, they can actually defeat COVID-19. Going forward, how can we maybe start having that culture of eating healthy foods?
Okay, I hope I've gotten your question correctly.
Yeah.
I believe you are asking about immunity and how immunity is related with the healing process of COVID-19 and agriculture in the country.
Yeah.
One, I would like to state that in the country, we have a variety of foods, and most of the foods are sold when they're fresh. In Kenya, you can't find the industry of packing processed food has not really grown. So this means we depend usually on fresh food products from the farms, which is so much good for us, especially now that we have this crisis of coronavirus. So this means that if we continue taking this food, we are going to improve our immunity, and that is why you can see that most of the countries in Africa, they are not being affected so much about the virus. And you can realize that, like now, I was keenly looking at the statistics of the latest statistics of the coronavirus in the country. You can realize that the graph is not growing. Instead, it has started being flat. So this is so encouraging, because you can realize even several people have already gotten out of danger. They are healed and they've been discharged, which is very, very encouraging. Today I was talking to a friend of mine from Nigeria. The same thing is happening in Nigeria. The graph has flattened, and it is actually dropping. They told me that today they were celebrating Easter in church. So the Easter celebrations have taken place in Nigeria because they've realized that the virus is not affecting them so much at the moment, and things are improving. So in general, I would like to say that in Kenya, foods are produced in their fresh state, and most of the foods are cheap, they are affordable. So maybe if we can continue taking the foods as they are in their natural state, we are not going to be affected so much by the coronavirus pandemic.
Okay. Great. Maybe I'll give you your last pick. And then I'm about to finish the session today. Your last take.
Oh, okay. Okay. My last take is that I think I've finished everything. That as I conclude my talk is, let's eat health and focus on improving our immunity. Then even if the virus comes to us, we are not going to be affected so much.
Okay, great. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. So that's how we will finish this session. So it was a quick session about food security and the role of the youth to defeat COVID-19. So I still think the youth have a lot to play in this crisis. Going forward, I think now after post COVID-19, we need to have a conversation about what the youth can do in this country, especially when it comes to food security. As youth, we have now to start thinking about agriculture and what our country, the potential that's there. I think there's a lot of land that is all over the country. And if we can invest, maybe as youth, if we can go there and explore what we have, it's possible that going forward, we can actually address this issue about food security. Until then, good night. See you tomorrow.